All right, welcome, Benson.
Thank you for having me.
I have to confess, Benson's also a very good friend. So, as is Andrea. And it's back to school season, Benson, and you have the perfect picture book to inspire and support kids finding their way to the kindergarten classroom. Can you tell us about the first night of Howler Garden?
Sure, yeah. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation with us. And yeah, so this is the book called First Night of Howler Garden. Um, it's about a little girl named Sophie, and where she's on a first day of Howler Garden, which is kind of like a play on word for kindergarten. But except it's Howler because it's a school for werewolves. And it's where, in this world, the kids go to the school to, on the first moon, they transform into werewolves. But Sophie here is afraid she might not transform like all the other weird kids. And what happens if she were to stay human, right? So I think for me, writing this book was really about us being in a new environment, whether you're a kid or an adult. It can be scary. There's all these anxieties, these feelings like, what if I don't fit in? What if I don't know anybody, And all that is a metaphor for what if I don't like transform? What if I don't fit in with everyone on the first day? What's gonna happen, And I think that's kind of what I want to transpire when I was working on this book, and having the idea of werewolves kind of fun because we actually don't see a lot of werewolf books, right? So yeah, that's kind of how this book's about.
Yeah, I certainly still feel that way first day in any new environment. Do you remember your first day of kindergarten, what that felt like?
Yeah, I think it wasn't anything like specific. It was more a feeling that I had. I think because also English wasn't my first language when I was growing up. I spoke a lot of Chinese with my grandmother, and so going to kindergarten is when you actually everyone around you you would think would be speaking English. So there was a language thing that I was just scared of, and then of course being in a new environment, and not knowing anybody, um, and meeting a new teacher. Right? What would that be like to have a teacher? Because you're always with your, with your family only, right? So being in that different environment as well, and you're not at home, you're in a school now. So all those feelings of anxiety and being scared is, I think, what everyone goes through.
Well, this is such a fun book, and you've really transformed those feelings beautifully into your main character,
Thank
Sophia. And I definitely recommend everyone checking that out. Benson has another book that's just come out that we're really excited about, and it's called Mooncakes Mean Family. Family is a big theme in a lot of your books. So tell us about this one.
Yeah, so Mooncake Means Family is about two little bunnies named Crystal and Jade, and they're learning about the holidays of the Mid-Autumn Festival. And during the Mid-Autumn Festival, one of the things that you do have is the mooncakes, and which is made of sweet lotus paste. It really does represent it's kind of like a Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, where people come together, people fly in to kind of spend time with friends and family to just kind of sit around together and just kind of hang out and enjoy really amazing autumn dishes.
So, was this inspired by experiences with your family when you were little?
A little bit, yeah. I think because growing up, I love mooncakes, and I think because they also come in many shapes and sizes. So the traditional round shape, which represents the moon, but there's also flower shaped, heart shaped, and my favorite was the animal shaped ones. So I remember going to Chinatown with my sister, and every year it would be a different animal. And I think one year was the pig, and it was wrapped in a plastic red basket, and there was like mooncake, but it was a pig-shaped mooncake in it, and it was just the cutest thing. So we would always ask our parents to buy one for that year. So I think that was one of the traditions that we loved.
Ooh, where can we get mooncakes?
You can get them like any Asian grocery store for sure, and I've heard that they're also at Costco as well. So yeah, go check it out. And they come in many different flavors as well. There's like green tea, there's red bean, and there's also a salted egg yolk in the center of the mooncake, and that's probably one of the best parts because you have. I know it sounds a little strange, but you do have the sweet and the salty mixed together, and it's fantastic.
Is that your favorite one?
Yeah. Yeah.
So have you always been an artist? Like, did this start way back in kindergarten? When did this begin for you, your love of art?
I don't know exactly what age, but ever since I can remember, I was always drawing something. I was always doodling something, um, and I just kind of kept at it growing up. So,
And tell us about your journey to work for Disney. Like you're living in Canada. How did you find your way here to the studios? And has it was it a difficult journey to get there? I know it's the dream of so many artists and animators.
yeah, it was difficult. I think I'm very fortunate that I've had that opportunity to come here because I think being in Canada, this is even before when I knew what visas and all that kind of stuff was. Um, but I would watch, I think it was behind the scenes of The Little Mermaid, or just seeing how animation was done, that it was hand drawn by people like us. And so from then I just kept drawing. I always looked at Disney as an inspiration and Warner Brothers, all these other type of artists. But I think as I got older, I realized that it was a harder dream to achieve because coming into the US was quite difficult. You have to have certain qualifications and all that kind of stuff. And my journey was like a zigzag all over. It wasn't a direct shot from here to Disney. I think I got to Disney after about 12, 13 years of working in the industry. Everything from video games to TV shows to live action visual effects and everything. And eventually got my way to the US. Um, but I feel like I wouldn't change a thing. I think having the opportunity to work with many different people at many different studios have made me become the artist I am. And I think to be a picture book artist, a lot of the stuff I learned was through animation. Like when my first job wasn't an animator, it was a prop designer. So prop designer's job is to design what a book would look like, a pencil, just the most mundane things you don't think about, but someone had to design it, a chair, a table. So I was designing that at a TV studio, and then I started to design characters, then I started to design background designs. I think all those little things helped me become a picture book artist as well, because I wouldn't have gotten those skills if I didn't do those other jobs to get to animation. So,
And how did you come about writing your first picture book?
I think a lot of it, I don't know if you guys might relate to it, is really just kind of telling your own stories. You know, my first book was about a little hippo who was scared of the water. And at that time, my niece was pretty young, and my sister, I was talking with my sister up in Canada, and she was like, my youngest niece, well, my niece was, at that time was only one, she was afraid of taking showers because she was so used to taking baths. So the shower of the water coming straight down was very scary for her. And she would bring her doll in there with her, just anything for her to comfort. And I started to ask questions like, what is she going through? Why is she feeling this way? And so I put a lot of that stuff into the first book. And I think it comes from trying to think of the perspective of the child and write from their perspective. Because I think sometimes when we write, especially when you write for children, you can write from an adult's perspective, but kids relate when they can see themselves in it, you know? And whether it's visually or not, it's the emotions are still the same. And I think that's when they really relate to books.
Okay, so what are you working on next, and what may be coming out next?
So what coming up next is it's called We Are Line Dancers. It's the same publisher as Mooncakes and Alex's Good Fortune, and it's about two friends, and they want to become line dancers. For those that don't know what line dancing is, it is during the Lunar New Year. You have you see the dragon, you know, with a lot of people holding it, right? And then you see the lion, which is the one with just two people, the back and the front. And it's talking about there's different types of lion dances. There's a northern lion, there's a southern lion, and we just talk about the festivities that happens during that festival.
I thought you meant like at a cowboy.
Like a country lion, yeah. Lion and lion sound very similar. Yeah.
Oh, and do you have any activities for your books?
Yes. So I have almost lots of coloring pages and mazes and puzzles and teacher's guides on my website that goes along with my books, and they're all free to download and printable, and you can use them in libraries, classrooms, and just anywhere really. So I hope you can take advantage of it because they're really fun.
Okay, and I have a question that maybe some of the people watching this have, which is, if you had to give advice to someone who wanted to be an author or an illustrator, what would it be?
So for an illustrator, I would say keep drawing. Draw from life. I think it's really important. Because drawing, like copying something from like the computer screen is great, but I think you really learn to develop your skill when you go outside in the world and just draw anything from a tree, people walking. People are more difficult to draw in life because they're constantly moving, but I'll just keep at it. But I think drawing outside in the world, you start to see things three-dimensionally. And then as for an author, read. I think read as much as you can. Read anything from magazines or whatever you love to read. Just read. Especially writing picture books. Read picture books, and you start to see a pattern, and also not patterns as well, because there's so many different ways to write a picture book. But what it does inform you is the type of stories that are out there, how people write, styles, and you will start to develop your own way of writing, and your own way of storytelling. And also critique groups is a big thing. That's how I met both of you. Let's do critique groups. And a critique group is where you kind of surround yourself with a group of people that you admire, and also they challenge you on your ideas and how to make your story better. And I think that's really important as a writer.
It's so true. You're such an awesome critique group member.
Thank you.
It's really awesome. And actually, I have a related question. How is it different writing and illustrating your own stories versus illustrating somebody else's story?
So illustrating someone else's stories have a different type of pressure. They're both, lots of pressure, but the pressure of illustrating authors' texts is that you want to do right by them, right? So there's a lot of thinking like, how can I give another layer to the text from there to tell another story on top of that. So that's really fun to also kind of dive into what that text really means than just what it says, And then whereas when I'm writing and illustrating my own books, I tend to already picture a very rough picture of my head of what it's going to look like. It's not fully realized, but it gives me an idea of, okay, I think I will describe that in the text. No, in the illustration. I don't have to write that in the text. But sometimes I do end up leaving too much out of the text, and they're like, what is happening here? So it's a balance. Yeah.
Okay, so how can readers find and support you?
If visit this wonderful bookstore, Flintridge bookstores, and I'm on all the social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, my website, bensonshum.com. Sorry.
Oh, we'll have all of his links down below.
Yeah. Or just go to the library, check out our books there. I think the library is such an amazing resource. And also if any of our books there are not there, you can request them at the library, and that's very helpful for artists and creators.
Okay, well, thank you, and come on into Flintridge Books.
We've got,
Bookstore.
in addition to great books like the ones from Benson, you can often find signed author and illustrator copies of the books, and some really fun gifts here too. Like I just found this one here on the shelf. Really Loud Librarians, a merciless word shouting board game.
And if you like putty or slime, there is Sensory Putty Banana Split. Scented, probably not flavored, but banana split scented silly putty.
And thank you for tuning in today, and we hope to see you at our next What's Our Story?
Thank you.
Thank you, Benson.
Thank you so much.